This episode was recorded last fall and will be airing more new episodes that we recorded before hiatus every Thursday through Halloween. Also, check out Dan's stand-up special, Dance Fatty Dance, on YouTube and subscribe to his new pod, Burbs Bros, with Sean Donnelly. Enjoy the show.
I want to know what's going on.
What does the disease want?
Wants to turn me into something else.
Oh, no.
A fly got into the transmitter pod with me that first time when I was alone.
Don't go back to it. Could be contagious.
I'm afraid.
Don't be afraid.
No. Be afraid. Be very afraid.
Hey, welcome to the It Couple. I am your host, Dan, with my beautiful wife, Sarah Jo.
Hello, hello.
And my beautiful work wife, Jon Gabrus, everybody. Thank you, Jon, for doing this show. Jon is hilarious. You've seen him in a ton of stuff. I don't even have time to mention the credits. There's so many.
Because Dan didn't do his job and look him up.
No, we were on Guy Code together. We were also like on a lot of the same shows.
Yeah, exactly. At this point, like on the podcast, who's like, if this guy doesn't have good credits, I'm turning it
out.
off. Like, yeah, you're not calling me up at a venue where no one will know me. Here at this point, it's like, wait, what? He just one unscripted show? Peace out. I have no time for this. They're listening to such a specific podcast. I think they're along for the ride at minute one.
Like, I'm just here for the fly. I don't care for this Gabrus character. I don't care for this Gabrus.
I listen to everything that's the fly. And this is finally I found one other thing.
I like podcasts that showcase the fly, but I don't like the podcast itself. Just any episode fly related. For instance, I am going to be listening to Ira Glass's take on The Fly 2 starring Eric Stoltz. All right, that's enough, guys. We're talking about The Fly.
Hell yeah.
We're going to start out with
we are.
What lesson is this movie teaching you in order to stay alive? For me, after watching this, don't fall in love with anyone interesting. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
Don't like this is
Yes.
like this just looks like a PSA for every like girl who dated in her 20s in Brooklyn in 2009 because everyone was like kind of attracted to the Jeff Goldblum. He's a scientist.
He's a
weirdo, but
cutie.
he's fucking sexy as fuck. You know, and Geena Davis too. I mean, just this is like the grossest but fuckiest movie too. It's a gross fuck movie.
It's Cronenberg at its
Fuck
peak.
yourself
It's horny
gross.
and
Yes.
nasty. Yeah,
Yes.
I love it.
It's
Just
slimy
fucking-
and
ugh.
sweaty
Titties,
and
but also
sexy.
mucus.
Yeah.
It's
all that yum
everything you
yum.
want, everything you want, baby.
Yes.
And here's another lesson to stay alive. If you're a lady, stay out of the scientists.
I already did.
Stay out of the sciences, okay? I don't care if that sweet Particle magazine job is waiting for you.
Run for your fucking life.
Yeah. Well, she also, by the way, had to fuck her boss probably to get that job. She was sleeping with the owner of the
It's a
magazine,
free
right?
Me Too movie.
That's such an interesting layer that is like unnecessary in the movie. He could just be her annoying boss, but it's also like they got to have a sexual history, and he's a fucking breaks and enters into her apartment to take a shower.
Thank you. He's like, with the key you gave me. It's like, oh, good God.
The lesson I learned that'll keep me alive is I will not arm wrestle anyone with cystic acne. I'm always arm wrestling in bars, and now I'm just not going to do it with someone whose face looks terrifying like that.
It's
Well,
so crazy you
pepperoni
say that because
pizza.
every time I've walked into you in public, you've been arm wrestling.
Yeah, well, I got to make my money, Dan. Strike season, dude. I'm fucking, I got to be making my bets.
Give me your credit. You know him from the Boardwalks. Jon Gabrus, everybody. The Boardwalks. All right.
So we're going to throw that in.
I don't know. Some
Come shoot paintballs at me.
some random shoot the freak. Some random facts about this movie. It was produced by Brooks Films. Yes, that Mel Brooks and 20th Century Fox. Remake of a 1950s movie. You know what I realized? This is a great movie. And for remakes, the key is just remaking something no one gave a shit about in the first place. Like if you did a Dante's Peak remake, I'd be interested. I'd be like, all right, Cool.
Dude, I talk about this way too much, but I'm into getting into this. Everyone remakes movies that were already good and beloved. And I get it because you get like some juice off the marketing. But remake a movie that just didn't have the effects it had back then. Remake Lawnmower Man.
Yeah.
Remake something that now we can do more with it. Or now the topic is even more poignant or something like that. Remake something that, oh, this was a great gem of an idea that that they just didn't pull off. This is right for a remake. Instead, we remake things that it's like, we should do Ghostbusters. It's like, no, everyone fucking loves that movie. People are still just play Ghostbusters.
And then there's like a pause,
again.
and they're like, okay, Godfather 2. You're like, oh, I don't think you get it. But it was directed by David Cronenberg. It was written by Cronenberg and Charles Pogue, who did Psycho 3, which I have not seen. Released.
I didn't know existed, to be honest.
No, I didn't either. Released August 15th, 1986. The budget, $9 to $15 million. Box office, $60 million, so it was a huge hit. Reviewers loved it. Said it's one of the few films better than the original. There is a sequel I had mentioned up top with Eric Stoltz. Won the Oscar for Best Makeup.
As well it should have.
Yeah, great makeup.
Yes, 100%.
Jeff Goldblum is Seth Brundle, Geena Davis, Brundlefly, if you will. Geena Davis as Veronica Ronnie Quaife. Jon Gates as Stathius Borons.
That's the boss lover.
And then, those are the only characters that matter. There's other people.
And Tawny's the hooker he picks up after winning the arm wrestling.
It really is a 3-person movie. Arguably, you can get it down to 2 people. But it's so. Watching it this time around, I was like, oh shit, the movie's so much more sparse than I remember it being. It's like 5 locations. It's like mostly in his weird loft, and it's fucking. Man, remember, growing up, I just thought someday I would have, a garage door into my apartment. So many movies from when I was a kid were like, this guy lives in a loft and doesn't have and then you move to New York City and you're like, oh, you have to be making, $11 million a year to have an elevator that opens in your apartment.
Yeah.
And I thought that was just, for poor people based on movies.
No, well, this movie is set in Montreal.
You don't even hear it in anyone's voices or anything like that. Nothing feels Canadian about it.
Oh, I feel like someone did say a boat at one point. And
there's a fly a boot. Someone get some poutine. I don't know. That's my closest to a French Canadian impression you're going to be. Just some facts of this. Cronenberg did this movie because he left Total Recall after a fight with Dino De Laurentiis, and this was his fuck you, I guess. Originally, they wanted Mel Gibson, who declined. They also wanted Pierce Bronson. Ronnie, the character that Geena Davis played, was supposed to be played by
Linda Hamilton,
who turned it down after the pregnancy larvae scene. Yeah.
I get it. That might be enough to not watch.
This is the scariest part of it. Apparently, the monkey named Typhoon was like a nightmare to deal with. And it was
sure. It's like
it's a baboon. This isn't a film monkey, it's a baboon.
Even a film monkey could go.
Right, even a chimpanzee insane. There's problems.
But a baboon is like,
come on.
A baboon?
There's a reason they're not in movies.
Dude, that's a fucked up moment when that first baboon bites it. That's a twisted when they open.
Yeah.
I love that they Cronenberg, of course, is like, don't worry, we're gonna open the door and get a shot full frame of this thing going like.
Well, apparently there was another scene that it was gorier, in that he had somehow mixed a cat with the baboon, so it was like a cat baboon hybrid. Just to give some background, Goldblum wore 5 pounds of prosthetic makeup for this. The acid, which looks disgusting, made from milk, eggs, and honey. So strangely,
I feel like that's what's inside a Cadbury egg too.
Yeah, it's not bad. And the same guy who did all the melting in this is the same guy who did the Lost Ark melting, Chris Wallace.
Probably the most famous melting right after that. Dude, this movie, it's got such good body horror that then escalates in such a perfect way. Like fingernails and teeth falling out and shit is already just like the thing of actual nightmares. And then the fact that it's like just the layers of how it keeps going. But That first fingernail when it falls off, and then later on there's one that falls onto the keyboard is like the most fucking disgusting shit. It activates me in such a way. I didn't remember a lot of this movie.
Activate you. Hello, Mr.
Yeah,
Gabriel.
yeah.
I'm activated right now.
I consider myself activated, like, which means I'm hard as fuck and salivating. But I hadn't seen this movie in a long time, and I thought I remembered it pretty well. And then I was like, this movie kicks off a little faster than you think too. It gets like right into it. It's so
he
awesome.
shows her those machines immediately, and
Activate sounds like something Hulk Hogan says when he's angry. You know, he goes, "Hey, bro, just you're kind of activating me right now, bro." All right.
Hey, I know you're not trying to activate me, but it's happening. Activating is what I used to say when the drugs would kick in. I'd be like, "I'm activating," like right as the shrooms hit.
Like wide shot and just piss filling your pants.
Activation complete.
We gotta actually get into the plot now.
no, let's just stay here.
No, just stay here.
Let's just hang.
We open at a party thrown by a financier, Bartok Industries. That is the, like, I don't know if you've seen Videodrome, but or Scanners, but Cronenberg is very good at the multi-conglomerate evil science corporation. That's his big
Oh
thing.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
I
Loves
love
it.
it. I've seen both of those movies. Love it. Yeah.
Yeah, his big thing. So they get
And man, was he wrong about real life. The one thing he got wrong.
Yeah, right. All right, so Jeff Goldblum is hitting on Veronica Quave, played by Geena Davis, who's just stunning in this movie.
She's so beautiful. She's so not a traditional beauty in a way. Like she's got a look to her that is like, she's got that perfect look that no one in Hollywood has anymore, where it's like, she looks like she could actually live in Montreal or be your neighbor, but she's also beautiful and charming.
She's quirky in that beautiful
So
way.
frequently, it's like fucking Chris Evans and Chris Hemsworth don't live in a fucking loft in Montreal. Like,
No.
people are like too attractive now in like perfect teeth and perfect bodies that you're like, you wouldn't be. That's not what a science reporter looks like. Like,
No.
she's like a believable science reporter who's also magnificently beautiful. Like that's
Right.
that's a sweet spot to be in Hollywood.
And really loyal to the end, if you think about it. But we'll get into
she
it.
falls hard for fucking
I mean,
Brundlefly. That's
fuck
I mean, that's how
that.
bad her ex is that like Brundlefly just seems like fucking, I don't know, Johnny Depp and Chocolat or something. I don't know.
I've never seen someone so pro-abortion they go past being pro-choice. It's like you don't even have a choice about.
She
He's
didn't
just
even
straight
have
up
a choice.
pro-abortion.
Oh, this is the most pro-abortion movie you're ever
for
going to see.
sure.
There's no one walks away from this movie being pro-life. So anyway, he invites her back to check out his apartment on
His new invention.
On new invention. On the way to the apartment, he's got motion sickness, which will tie into it. Man, now if someone came up to me and they were like, "I work for a magazine," I'm like, "Oh, you should meet my other friend who works at the phonograph plant, you fucking loser." It's just so day to day. Like, it's so weird to like watch like magazines. This is like high tech. This is like, the equivalent of, I guess, like the 2023 version of this would be I don't know, a reporter from, I wanted to say BuzzFeed, but that seems old.
No, that's
No, Geena Davis would have a little lav mic in her hand, and she would be doing a TikTok, and she's like, "What's the number one pickup line you've ever been told?" Like, it wouldn't even
Yes,
be about
right.
science or whatever.
Yeah.
It would be like, "Who's got more Riz in the science community?" or whatever. It would just have nothing to do with like, "Are you a tits man or an ass man?" It would just all be like grabby fucking headline viral shit. Nothing about science. Like the idea of like a magazine writer, no less a magazine about science even existing. We're like 50 years past that mattering to our fucking populace. Like no one gives a fuck about science nor writing anymore.
But it is developing still crazily fast. So that must be really annoying, like when a scientist comes up with something that they know is going to change the landscape of civilization, and we're just like, I read Everett. He's like, no, this is like big. What I just did is huge.
Right.
And like the only way that you can be a scientist, and you have to also buy a tech company. You also have to be Elon Musk, I guess, where you also have to also be Bruce Wayne to be a famous
I guess
scientist.
it depends how you define a scientist, because there's multiple layers and
Well,
levels
tell me
to it.
who do you know who's a scientist besides like Elon Musk?
And he's not even technically
He's
a
like an
scientist.
inventor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy who
Yeah, he's not
worked
a
at
scientist,
PayPal when
actually.
it got bought out. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like he's like your super rich friend who like throws live comedy shows at his like mansion and calls himself a comic.
Well, it's like the Tesla Edison thing where it's like Edison and Tesla were both real scientists, but Edison was like 100th of the scientist that Tesla was, but because he was good at the Elon Musk thing and he was good at like, you know, fucking electrocuting elephants or whatever the fuck, you know, like that's who we like. We consider the genius to be Thomas Edison, even though no, he was the salesman. That's who he was. All right, well, let's keep going. Seth, he takes her to the apartment. He shows her his latest invention, a teleporter or telepods that disintegrate matter, transmit it across space, and then reintegrate it. She realizes that this could be the invention of the century. And over Seth's objection, goes to her boss and ex-lover, Stathis Borons, to convince him to publish the story. More about Borons is understood, believing the whole thing to be a magic trick. The actor who plays him is just, I mean, if you've seen Jon Getz, he's just, I mean, he is the dick. You
know him from so much shit.
So
like,
many
he's in
things that man has been
He's in Bosch is where I know him from most recently. He's so fucking slimy seeming. You know what I mean? He's like on paper like a handsome, sweet looking guy, but he's got such a fucking slime to him that you're like, it's so believable.
It's the beard.
Well, he looks better with a
makes
beard.
him-
Without a beard, he looks like just like with a
He looks like
beard.
a
he looks at with
ventriloquist
some-
dummy.
Yes,
Yes.
He just it looks so disingenuous.
Wait, so this is how you know you're watching like a late 80s, early 90s movie is holy shit, is it hot when Geena Davis takes her stocking off. I feel
Oh
like
my-
a fucking Amish guy when she does it. I'm like, oh! You know.
Dan, you definitely got a boner when that happened because I said,
did.
"Who even wears those anymore?" And he's like, "But look at it, it's sexy." Like, he
Yeah,
like,
I
got really
did.
quiet
Spavente,
and-
were you into it? Yeah, that's our producer.
Hey,
Spavente.
ladies, guys like nylons.
How old is your I honestly I think it's guys of a certain
Spavente,
age because
you're younger than me.
Yeah, but
Hold on,
Savente's
31.
younger.
He's 31.
okay, interesting. That goes against my theory because I just think for so long every sexy woman in a movie had stockings.
Well, if you look at
Yes.
Spavente, you're going to be like, this guy likes stockings.
yeah, okay, yeah, he's a bank robber. He's got one over his head right now.
But it's needle. It's so hot. That is so hot.
Yeah.
That scene.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever. She wants to blow the secret. Goes to her boss. Her boss thinks it's a crock of shit. And then Jeff Goldblum, Brundle, goes there and is relieved that she didn't tell the boss about the teleportation because he's got to hammer some stuff up. He takes her out for a burger. And I always at this moment because like there's at one point where like Geena Davis kind of shits on the burger. It can't be any worse than this. Always in these moments, I always want to hear like the guy in the cooking back be like, "Hey man, I work really fucking hard." You know what I mean? Like the guy,
You guys came to a fast food burger place in Montreal. What the fuck were you hoping for?
What did you think? Come on.
Specifically, they went to get a burger. Like he's so Goldbluming out when he's like
That's right.
a burger.
Have you ever met him, John? Have you ever met Jeff Goldblum?
I have not. No, I look forward to someday meeting him as he takes photos with my wife.
Oh, well,
Do you want to tell
funny.
me your Jeff Goldblum story?
I met him. That was my lead-in so you could be like, Sarah, did you ever? Michael Cecil Creighton is a dear friend and was doing a show down on St.
By the way,
Mark's.
one of my favorite actors of all time.
Isn't he the
High
best?
maintenance, spotlight. He's the best in everything.
Only
I love him.
Murders.
I always
Yeah.
I joke
I don't
with
watch
Michael,
Only
though,
Murders,
That
but
like
yeah.
Michael's
Great.
reel must be so crazy. 'Cause it's like Only
it's the
Murders,
best
it's all
work.
this comedy, and then cut to a scene in Spotlight. He goes, "I was 12 when I was molested." It's like the exact opposite of everything that's happening. Anyway, keep going.
So, you made me lose my train of thought. What was I saying? Oh, Jeff Goldblum.
You met
thank
Jeff
you.
Goldblum via
Yes.
Michael Cecil Creighton.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. And I'm in the front row, and next to me, randomly enough, is a childhood dear friend. We just happened to be there. We hadn't seen each other in years. He sits down next to me because his assistant is in the show. And I looked at him and I'm like, "Oh, hi." My mom is a huge fan. And because he's like,
old
"I'm
guys
Jeff."
like to
Yeah,
hear
he goes,
that. Yeah.
"I'm Jeff." And I'm like, "Oh, hi, I'm SJ." And I was like, "My mom's a huge fan from The Big Chill." And he goes, "Ugh, old women love that, or something like that. And then he proceeded to hold my hand for like the first act, like maybe even through
By the way, you could only be
like,
Jeff Goldblum. If that was like Dwight Yoakam, you would have called the police.
Well, honestly, Goldblum has quite the rep for this shit. If you ever see pictures from when he like performs live music in LA a bunch, if you ever see pictures, it's like him and like a 20-something-year-old girl, and he's like holding her neck in the photo. And shit, he's just like he's got his hand like way on like the lowest of her lower back in the shot. And stuff
Yeah.
like that.
he married a girl who lived with my friend Brendan in LA and was an aerialist. She's like a French Canadian.
Technically, she's a fly.
She is she's a fly.
There's so many weirdos who try that though and fail miserably. Like Jeff Goldblum has led so many weirdo guys
Astray.
to like being like, well, Jeff can do it, right? So I can get away with it.
So
No, now
sexy.
you're just banned from this Dollar General.
I'm a tall freak. Yeah.
No, now you're not allowed in the library anymore. That's what happens. That's what happens to you. So she ends up spending all her time in Seth's apartment. They fall in love. They fall real hard. That we had mentioned the baboon experiment, the baboon, if you will.
The baboon.
The baboon. They put the baboon in the teleporter. It just turns into like
It's pretty the movie does great time jumps just to keep things moving along, but you do wonder where these two went and got two separate baboons at two different points. And she's like, I got your back hairs analyzed, like all this stuff that's happening off camera.
Right.
I'm kind of weirdly appreciative of it because I think nowadays we have to like audiences kind of have to be like handheld through a bunch of stuff. So
Yes.
we would like see her go like, thank you, this is the hair. Thank you. You know, like we would have to get all
or
these
get
like
the phone
random
call with the results, and be like,
yes,
oh, thank
exactly.
you.
Instead, we're like mostly in the loft and we're just like, yeah, we have a baboon. Yeah, we got a second one. Like, like I kind of dig that. It kind of moves fast in that way.
Yeah.
yeah, it is.
The only thing faster moving than the movie is Geena Davis's falling head over heels for fucking.
Oh,
Hello.
she loves it. I mean, that's how.
Banging on a pullout. I mean, that's
Also, like,
real
how
love,
bad of
let
an
me
ex
tell
are
you.
you to be? They're like, oh yeah, the girl, she is just gutted by the next guy who can't fucking eat a plate of mashed potatoes without a family next to him throwing up. I mean,
It's
like,
kind
how
of like
bad did you
being
fuck
married
up?
with you, actually.
Exactly, yeah.
If you've ever seen Dan
Well, that's
eating
what
in
I
the
mean.
wild.
Just stay the normal, boring pig.
So sorry, everyone.
Boring pig. So basically, he's missing the final like missing ingredient for his teleportation sauce. They in the middle of the night they get a magazine where her boss, the bearded guy, had drafted up a mock magazine. So she's
Because now he's into the idea.
of Jeff Goldblum's invention on the cover. So she's terrified that he's about to break the story. So he leaves. Jeff Goldblum takes this as, well, they must be fucking. But he remembers something when they were hooking up where he said how he was being driven crazy by the flesh. And that kind of gets in his head. So he's like, well, maybe that's what I've been waiting to do. I don't know how that spurns him to decide to do it exactly.
It's a little complicated what's happening because I too was caught up in this because I didn't remember that little steak experiment they did, and I did enjoy it on this time around. She's like, it tastes synthetic,
Yes.
and he like is like, oh yeah, there's something wrong with that, and then he's just via brainstorming about flesh and how much we like it, and I guess typing some new shit into the code or something like that. Like
They don't.
that all.
I guess
and-
you're
and
right.
that's-
Though if he explains it, it destroys the mystery, right? If you like explain
Yeah.
it too
Right.
much. Because if you explain it right off the, because there is a moment where he's like looking at like sins of the flesh, and then I expect him to like look at the steak, look back, and then like jump cut to him fucking the steak or something. I think that's what he takes from it. Like I still don't
him
totally-
coming out of the portal with like a giant steak for the head, and like a fucking Warner Brothers cartoon on a desert island. Yeah.
Yeah, he becomes like the intermission guy for his own movie.
But I kind of dig this, and Cronenberg is good at this shit too, where it's like just this little bit of magic or whatever that's involved there, where like some other sci-fi guy would like hammer out all the specific details and all that shit. But in this case, they just get to kind of go like, Yeah, well, he really thought about it, typed a few things, and now things are going to be okay. And another thing I never noticed on previous viewings that really stuck to me on this time was the establishing of the fly.
Yes.
Like the baboon is like annoyed by it, the sound is around, and you're like, yes, the fly is in. And if you've ever had a fly in your apartment, they are fucking loud.
They're
dog. They like
loud.
get behind your blinds and like rattle and shit. It's
They
terrifying.
dart around if you try to hit them with stuff. They'll just like.
Originally it was played by Danny DeVito, the fly.
No.
It was just being like, hey, yeah, I'm watching here, Jeff.
No, but you're right though, John, because you do see so much of it. Like even when he gets in the little teleporter and you see the fly on the glass, trapped inside, so many close-ups.
And
Wow.
it's weird because like just like the tooth falling out and the fingernail falling out, like trapping a fly in your car, or like you close the door and you're like, fuck, the fly got in the house. Or you go to close your window and you're like, shit, the fly's on the inside. Like that is kind of just like an annoying thing that does happen in life.
Yeah.
And then with the stakes added that now you are sharing a telepod, it just becomes like this new thing. And that it's such a simple, real thing of like, you know,
Do you think
there's
this
also the
is-
expression of fly in the ointment.
Do you think this
which
is where they
like-
got the idea of Love is Blind? I'm just
Yeah, I mean the pod's it does look like that.
But we have to remember that he also, Seth cuts himself, gets a cut on his back. And
By laying on a weird microchip that's in his bed, like that's such a fucking
such a
weird
fucking
scene where she's
nerd.
like-
It's just
he's
to
like,
remind you
"Ow."
he's a nerd. You know, he's like, oh,
like-
a microchip in
Yeah.
my back. But
she's like, let me pull that out.
I've done
for
that
you.
with,
that's
like,
how
a-
the fly and he, you know,
I've done that
mutate
with like
together.
an oddly placed Cheez-It. I've ever cut
Dan, forever, I've
myself
told the
open.
story before. There's always like a loose candy under his butt when he gets out of bed, and I'm
Hey.
like, where the fuck
This is-
coins?
Well, you
infrastructure,
go date Jeff Goldblum and have a fucking Warby baby.
Oh my
what can I
God.
tell you?
Oh,
Yeah,
on some of my
sure.
drunken nights, I've woken up with like my wallet stuck to like the middle of my back, you know, and I'm like walking to the bathroom and something falls off my back from being just stuck there with sweat and you
Maple
know,
syrup.
schmegma. Yeah.
Guy, this is so she comes back. She basically comes back only to see him walk out of the pod. And man, if you thought Geena Davis looked good in this movie, woo-wee! Goldblum, I don't know. He is just. I mean, she was flicking her, this harlot next to me, my wife, was
Yeah.
flicking her bean the whole
Splish,
time. I
splash,
couldn't. I was like,
and
babe, we gotta do a movie podcast. Stop fucking exploring your vulva during this.
He looks fucking amazing. He gets like a hero shot with like the telepod has like the atmosphere popping off, so he's coming out like it's a fucking Madonna music video. Like,
Yeah.
it's Fincher shooting Express Yourself. He's pretty lean guy. He clearly, off camera is doing some bands and some dumbbells, get the vascularity going.
Yeah.
A light sheen of oil on his like olive colored skin, and then shot up from his cum gutters up makes him just look so fucking good. And they do a good job of keeping him in like tweed jackets and shit, which we learn is he has a closet full of like the same outfit and
right?
shit.
The same fucking outfit. Yeah.
They hide his body in a good way leading up to it too. So you're like, oh, he's not just a tall weirdo. He's a tall, hot, weirdo. And, like,
sexy.
yeah.
Really good
Smoldering.
looking in this.
He's
And-
really good looking in everything,
All right, well,
as
calm
far as
down
I'm
here.
concerned.
All right,
Yeah.
put
He's
it
one of
away.
those
Put
dudes
those
who's-
fallopian,
he's-
unwrap those fallopian tubes, put them back in the box.
I had them removed. I can't.
Okay.
Well, they're out. Just for the listeners, SJ's playing with them. They're not in her body. She's just playing with them like in her hand. Some sort of, she's just taking them out of a jar.
Hey, that's my wife's fallopian tubes you're talking about, buddy.
Well, you keep them in that blue barber liquid. That's mad weird, guys.
Oh my God, so great. All right, we're not gonna beat that, folks.
Him doing all the workouts when he's like, now he's got like half fly strength or whatever.
Yes.
Like when he's doing like, he's weirdly got like a gymnastics bar set up in his loft and he's able to like whip around.
Right, because he hooks up with her and he's like an animal in bed too, isn't he? Is he, like,
Yeah, she's
pawing
like,
at
how do you
her?
have any fluids left in your body? And he's like, he's also, the makeup is so subtle. I called it out earlier because like when he goes and picks up Tammy,
yeah.
Tanya, interchangeable sleazy girl names from the 80s, Tawny, Tammy, and Tanya.
Mm-hmm.
But when he goes to pick her up, and starting here when he's humping her. Previously, when they had sex, it was really like kind of sexy. Now it's like primal, but he's got this weird look. He's got like a little bit of skin shit going on. He's a little greasier. He's got a little like sunken eye thing going on that just starts to go like, what's this guy up to? You know? And it's like just enough.
He's even starting to look like a little green. It was like a little, like lightish.
He's like,
He kind of starts to look like, remember the serial killer Richard Ramirez? He kind of starts to look like that.
He
guy.
does. You're
Oh,
right.
yeah.
It's the
Halfway
hair.
through
It's
it.
the
he's
hair
the Night
and the eyes.
Stalker, right?
He's the Night
Yeah.
Stalker. And,
Yeah.
they show like, it's funny because there's a scene where, you see him putting sugar on a cappuccino and now he's becoming a fly. So, of course, he just
Tons of
can't get
sugar.
enough sugar.
Right.
Just tons of sugar. But then, like, I'm watching him put it on there. And then I think I saw some demonstration where that's like the amount of sugar like Starbucks and McDonald's just normally puts in every drink. So
That's what a Dunkin' Donuts calls a regular.
yeah, I was about to say, it's supposed to be this disgusting thing, but I'm like, I'm pretty sure like toll booth workers do that every day to like get through
Yeah,
the
he's
day.
putting this disgusting amount of sugar in, and it's like what parents are putting in their kids' lunchbox every day in America.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's not that bad, but she can't keep up with him, man.
Yeah, and then he gets off the bed and does like you're right, John, when he works out and there's just like a pole there.
I guess the only
Like a
Larsa
pull-up?
Pippen would be the only one who could fuck him at this point.
I mean,
Like,
at this point,
I don't know who else.
I don't know.
But he goes to a seedy bar to meet Tawny. But first, this is the famous scene.
arm
He has
wrestle.
a arm wrestling scene. This feels like if it was any other 80s movie, this would have been like the scene that Terry Funk was in or the pro wrestler. But David
Yes.
Cronenberg obviously doesn't care about wrestling. And it's like, let's keep the focus on.
I like to see, I watch movies like this, and you see these two characters, and you're like, maybe back then, Dan St. Germain and I could have gotten some work as like, like scumbag, hick, arm wrestling freaks. Like when that guy turns around and he has like suspenders on like high waisted.
Guys, it's so bleak. Gabrus has to play me and things.
No, I mean, I would totally cast you as like the movers who show their butt cracks. Like that would be a definite.
Yeah. Or the the one who's like, who sees the crazy, like, whoa, wait, this lady's crazy. Like that's my role. That would be my role with it. Whoa, this lady's
This
crazy.
broad's crazy. That's what you would say.
Lady. The one who says lady. All right. After a night of sex and demonstration, so Tawny pours champagne on Jeff Goldblum's skin, which like burns him. He then tries to force her into the pod to merge with him, and that's where our famous titular line. I guess not a titular because it's not in the title, but Geena Davis shows up and says, "Be afraid, be very afraid." Interesting thing about this line, I don't know if you knew this, John. This was actually Mel Brooks's line because he produced this, and he came up with this, and he goes, "That should be the slogan." And they kept, because apparently they're like, well, do you want to play a role? And he goes, no, if I'm in this movie, no one's going to fucking take it seriously.
Right, it's not going to be as scary.
It's not going to be as scary. I cannot be in this movie. But the thing that, be afraid, be very afraid. So I guess he was actually supposed to be the surgeon, which was then played by David Cronenberg in that nightmare scene. And the only reason that he plays that is because I guess he had like lunch with Martin Scorsese, and Scorsese's like, hey, you'd be a good doctor in something. And so Cronenberg's like, all right, I'll just be a doctor.
Does he have lines? He does have dialogue, right?
I think he has like a couple.
Because
lines.
could
It's
you
not
imagine Mel Brooks saying those lines? Like he has such a distinct little raspy, husky voice.
I mean, I see your larvae is as big as mine.
Is that a lobby in your pocket, or you just happen to see me?
Now, it's a pretty strong cocaine allegory to The Fly, right? Or like, the way he feels on the after telepotting, and the way he's trying to force her to do it, and is like, if you do it, imagine how we could fuck if we're both on it. It's got very much, and as he's getting more and more desperate to get Geena Davis in the pod, it does feel that moment when you're looking at your friend and you go, I think I'm quitting. Just because looking at you is stressing me out enough
It's
that
also
I think
like
I'm done
meth.
for the night.
It's
They
like
also-
meth,
or meth
or
or-
skin and
Well, they said it was an
Yeah.
AIDS allegory too, because
They
this was
did,
right
isn't that
at
crazy?
this was this was the highlight of the AIDS crisis, and I guess at the time when people were seeing lesions pop up on people, I mean there is some
Right.
inspiration for the makeup here, final
Oh,
stages
yeah,
of
that's
AIDS
intense.
stuff. Cronenberg, I can't imagine it being like a fun hang. Because he really, I mean, he just loves all things dark. He just puts all the dark. Because
I think that would make him a fun hang. Because anybody I know that does like a lot of comedy, oops, I'm talking about my husband, but I'm not, is really miserable.
Yeah, right.
I don't mean you. I mean the successful.
Yeah, of course.
I don't
Everyone
mean
knows
you,
I'm-
Dan. I was just about to say, yeah, Dan, it would be such a bummer for a ray of light like you to have to hang out with someone as dark as Cronenberg.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just, I'm just talking about, bridge and Easter brunches, but
Which bridge to leap on.
Yeah.
bridge to leap off. Yeah, I'm see me at the Golden Gate Bridge this weekend. Anyway,
At the bottom.
I'm doing a tight 5, and I
used to
got
have
a
a
strong
bit.
closer.
no, I did used to have a bit, which maybe I'll try to put this on the gram because it's an old bit. But it was sorry. Oh, this is just stepping through my catalog of hilarity. But I used to have a bit like they put a net under the San Francisco Bay Bridge to catch people from killing themselves,
Okay.
which gave me like a great idea for side business to have one of those like Splash Mountain photo booths right next to the net and be like, brother, you should see your look on your face when you realize you were going to live another day. Anyway, check out the catalog, guys. Bad at the Good Times, unavailable. all-
And no taking photos of the screen. No taking photos of the screen. You gotta buy the photo. You gotta buy the photo.
Yeah, you get it. Oh, okay. So she shows up, basically says, you got to get fucking help. I'm going to kind of like speed towards the end of the movie. But yeah, like he starts kind of enjoying his newfound powers and is able to flop away. But then it gets real bad. This is when we had mentioned it earlier in the podcast. His teeth start falling off. His hair starts going off. He cannot eat food without spitting up over it. This is very
That
different
truly
than
was
most horror
disgusting.
movies. Because
Yeah.
most horror movies, it's like you don't show the monster. Like you do everything you can to not show the monster, and you hint at the big bad and how scary it is. But Cronenberg's just like, I'm going to show you
Yeah,
fucking
fuck it.
everything. You're going to see
Yeah, well, that's-
everything.
That's what I like. It's like that body horror element where it's like leaks in slowly. It's like, oh, he's got this weird hair on his back. Oh, his face looks a little sunken. Oh, his fingernail falls off. Oh, this. Oh, until he's barfing on his food. And then later on, when his like knees invert to like the fly legs, like that shit is fucking
The movie
horrifying.
feels like half Portrait of Dorian Gray, half Philadelphia. It's real bizarre. It's like the darkest of the dark they combined to make this movie. So yeah, he's falling apart. Then I asked another question for you guys. What do you think would be the most disgusting or gross thing to get caught in a pod with you? Because I have my answer. My answer would be bed bugs. Because instead of just saying I have bed bugs, you would be saying I am bed bugs. That is
disgusting.
That is as bleak as
The
I
way-
can get.
Yeah, because the feeling, just the words bed bugs gives me, like if you lived in New York at any point in your life, the phrase bed bugs just sits with you in a way. It breaks friendships, relationships, and makes you want to burn all your possessions. It's
That was
fucking-
almost like our preemptor for COVID. Was like all the shit
It's
you're
true
gonna have to
because
go
if
through.
someone had bed bugs, you wouldn't go to their apartment.
Yeah.
You didn't want to sit next to them. I mean, I remember
Right.
when they were on the L train and they were just hopping on people. There were so many.
Oh,
Yeah, they're playing in
Currently-
bands.
yeah.
They're in Paris.
While
Is
we're
that what you
recording this, Paris, I was just about to say,
Yeah.
France is getting huge bed bug infestation.
said? During
which
Fashion
means,
Week.
I know, it just feels like that means if they're that powerful, they're going to be everywhere in like 9 months.
yeah,
Like
it's
it's going to be
over.
like a worldwide infestation. Yeah.
It's gotta be.
The
right?
end of the world is going to be real gross, guys.
It's going to be really uncomfortable.
It's going to be way less exciting than movies have it pinned
I
out. There's going to be
know.
no like fucking like aliens that come down and beam us and like blow up cities. It's going to be like us fighting each other for the last Coca-Cola flavored water or whatever, for the last last gallon of Dasani that's left.
Yeah, exactly. So now this is when like usually there's a movie where horror movies get crazy. This is just getting crazy, but this is double X crazy because she reveals that she is indeed pregnant.
Right, because if everything else wasn't bad enough,
Yeah,
let's
she's
add
pregnant with the
another
kid.
layer.
When she says that, I'm like, man, this should be a Planned Parenthood commercial. This should just be like, and everyone would be pro-choice after this. Just having her be like, we got to get this fucking thing. out of me. Seth has encouraged her to talk to Seth before aborting the baby. Again, every idea her ex has is just the dumbest idea.
Right.
Like he does the thing that like they tell you not to do with an unstable. Like don't tell him that it's his kid. But she encourages to,
let him know.
And then he kind of keeps getting crazier and comes to the conclusion, Brundle does, that, since he's rapidly declining, the last real legacy he has is this kid. So if she aborts this kid, then he has no legacy.
Yeah, there's nothing left.
Yeah, there's nothing left. And it's a very, almost existential threat for him. And because of that, he, breaks, which, by the way, they're doing abortion at night. And I'm like, do they have abortions on demand at night, or does he know a guy?
He knew that.
No, that's what it felt like, because it felt like that because he's like, I don't do these at like the middle on like 0 minutes notice or whatever.
That. Yeah, he says that. Right.
Yeah, it's like legal. So I was just a little confused, but
actually, this is how you know the movie's Canadian, because if this was an American abortion doctor, he'd be like, well, hold on, it's been 2 weeks, the baby is fully formed and God loves it, and hold on, here's your health insurance forms, you got to fill out 77 pages, it's going to cost you $80,000. I know you're a magazine writer who makes $1,200 a month or whatever.
The Virgin Mary originally wanted to abort the larvae, but
mama.
All right, so
we got frankincense, myrrh, a coat hanger. What do you need, baby?
Here's kind of, the science here is kind of crazy. He thinks that, if there's a way that he could merge himself, Geena Davis, and their baby together,
they become one super.
They can become one super thing, which comes into play later on. But
wait, let's talk about this for a second, just because the thing I kind of dig is the only justifications we ever really understand about the science is that green on black computer screen that he's like looking at.
Yes.
And it's like the best chance for Brundlefly, blah, 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 is to combine with more non-fly DNA. And it's like, I miss these days of just read it and now you understand what needs to happen, right? And it's like, I loved all the imagery. First of all, that green font on black background.
Well, classic.
Nostalgic. So amazing.
Hello, Sandra Bullock in the net.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's all fucking like when they combine the DNA, like all the little numbers scan around and stuff like that. And then when he learns that he's part fly, it's because he's like clicking. He's like 1%, 0 fat, 0. Oh no. Like I love all the screen shit that comes up throughout the movie.
It would be funny to do another thing where you have like a fatter guy and it just pulls up and there's like 7 different bugs you didn't realize were on it. It's just like, oh fuck! I didn't know there was. I packed sea monkeys in with me the whole time. Anyway, so so then our ex, this is very sad for Geena Davis, but our ex is Jon Getz is kind of thrown into the Van Helsing or, the let's slay the beast. He gets there and instead is immediately thwarted by Jeff Goldblum. This is a movie, it's pro-choice, but it also kind of makes you pro-gun. Because the gun that he brings in is like this antique that like fucking, I guess, Burr and Hamilton had during their feud.
It's a pistol.
He's got to like assemble it. And there's like 7 parts to it. Yeah. And then by the time he assembles it, he doesn't get the shot off. And then, Jeff Goldblum's just like spitting up on his foot and
trying to eat him.
That fucking stump that Guest pulls up after the fucking after all the barf, like the acidic barf, that shit looks so good.
Yeah, he slides over and he's got missing an hand, he's missing a leg, and he's just like, right? He eats one leg and one hand, opposite side, and he slides over.
Well, then he's able to still fire. Like Jeff Goldblum brings her into the pod. He's able to fire off a shot. So Geena Davis he fires off a shot of the pod. So the pod's malfunction. Geena Davis is able to get out of the pod before, I guess, the sequence starts. But because the door is open, Jeff Goldblum, as the Brundlefly, he merges with the pod itself. Now, this is the only time where I like bumped on Techno. I'm like, well, if the pod door's open, shouldn't he be merging with like everything in the apartment?
Yeah, or like atmospheric in some way, like merging with like, Or just have like a fucking sheet of loose leaf blow in there and let's see what happens or something. You know what I mean? Like I'm with you on that. It gets a little I mean, it's all looks awesome. But
It looks cool.
Yeah, it gets a little convoluted at this point.
It gets a little convoluted because the reveal, and it's a really cool reveal, and it is so Cronenberg, where now he's become part of the machine, and he's a freak, and it really is that Frankenstein story hitting over the head. Look, technology is literally dooming me right now.
Yeah.
And at the very end of it, I mean, it's fucking Werewolf in London, man. It's the Beauty and the Beast story, you know.
Right.
Geena Davis has got she blows his fucking head off, and that's the end of the movie, man.
That's it, man.
God, I would pay so much money to just my last fucking load I bust is Geena Davis blowing my head off.
I think could that be on your hall pass list with your wife? Be like Geena Davis, but only if she gets to blow my fucking head off.
Only if I'm terminal. Like it's all euphemistic. She's also like a semi-pro Olympic archer, right?
Right,
She's
yes.
almost made the Olympics. Maybe I'll take a fucking arrow to the chest on while I climax from Geena Davis.
That is a way to go. I asked a friend of mine. He's like, "Well, how do you want to go?" He goes, "Oh, off a building." He's like, if you want to die, you want to like really experience it.
Oh God, no, no. I just want to take something and fall asleep. That's it.
When I'm close, I told her mega dose me with hallucinogens. I just want to see the fuck. Give me DMT.
That sounds
give me
like
everything
too
back
much, man. That sounds too much.
Nah, that's how I want to go, man.
I've already realized enough. I don't need any more. But John, you were fucking hilarious on
John,
the show,
this is
dude.
awesome. Thank you.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for giving me an excuse to rewatch a fucking great movie. I love doing movie podcasts for that reason of like, sorry, babe, I have homework tonight. I have to go smoke a bong and watch The Fly for work.
Daddy's working. What do you got to promote, buddy? I know you still have your action movie Patreon, right?
Yeah, I still got an action movie Patreon. You can check that out at actionboyz.biz. We have some free episodes at free.actionboyz.biz.
Ooh.
Get a sniff, get hooked, and come on over. We're doing a lot of fun stuff over there. We just added like a video tier and some other fucking shit. As the strikes went on, things got a little bleaker. We started adding some bells and
Thank
whistles.
fucking God, we're not going to have to deal with like Dennis Quaid podcast anymore, right? Like
I know.
all these guys are like, did you know Devin Sawa's got a podcast?
Dude, you can make a fortune if you're just a guy who knows how to do Patreon and record podcasts. You just like reach out to celebrities like, hey, Goldblum, you want me to come by your house in 2 hours a week? And I could probably end up getting you like fucking $30,000 a month to start minimum. But then eventually you can make Theo Von money.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, man.
Theo Von.
That's what I want. All right. Well, yes, please check out Jon Gabrus
Old Gabriel.
everywhere. Jon
Check
Gabrus
me out,
everywhere.
playa.
Check me out, player.
Yeah.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks so much for doing the show. Stay spooky, America.
Stay spooky, America.
Make America spooky again.